to the Man United agenda, our reaction show to the defeat against Newcastle United on a scoreline of 2-1. It was a weekend, our midweek game fixtures that we saw Liverpool losing traction on their Champions League ambitions, Aston Villa losing to Chelsea, and an opportunity for Manchester United, who were playing at 8:15, to put a bit of a buffer between them and the other teams. Unfortunately, Michael Carrick's unbeaten run is now over. We will obviously reflect on the table, where we go from here, because obviously this will be the first real challenge for Michael Carrick now, coming off his first loss, in terms of how he reacts from here. We're going to have a 10-day break until our next game, so there's quite a bit of time to work on stuff in Carrington. But of course, I am joined by the man that had to sit through the last 2 hours of that football. Mr. B, your record of no 3 points on the watch-alongs has returned.
Thanks, Trevor. But I wasn't playing on the pitch, so I'm not taking any responsibility for that today. I'm not taking any responsibility for that today.
And of course, the Sultan of Vinyl, the man that spins the tunes. He was waxing lyrical about Harry Convict Maguire during the week. And let's be fair about it. Harry probably didn't need to get out of jail on this one today. But Yaba, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's been coming. We have to expect this. Premier League, such of a standard. You've got a team who's down in 12th for something like Newcastle. And, you've got to go there away from home. And, yeah, we want to win a game, but these things happen. The only disappointment, I'd say, is that with 10 men, obviously the penalty, we went down. I was thinking, oh, God, great comeback. But with 10 men for a whole half, I think the strategy should have been to dominate a bit more and put it on them and create more chances. And that's something we couldn't really do. And the questions have to be asked about that. Not to be too critical, but you have to say, well, why didn't we use the extra man and why didn't we make that count? So I'm just curious to know what your thoughts about that are. But overall, we've had a great run. Remember that. And look at the position we're in. And the other teams around us are floundering, So it's not to do with anything other than the Premier League is tough. West Ham, look at them. They're in the bottom three and they're fighting for their lives. So every game in the Premier League is a tough encounter. Man City drew today. Aston Villa at home, they lost by 4-1. You see what I'm saying? So considering all those factors, we've gone on a good run and we've beaten some good teams. But obviously, it comes to an end at some point. We just got to kick on and continue and just don't be too downhearted about it.
Let's just have a quick look at that table, because obviously this is the state of play now following the conclusion of today's games. We don't need to worry about the first and second team. Where we're looking at is from third until, let's just say, seventh for the sake of argument. Manchester United, 51 points. Ahead of Villa on goal difference, who have 51 points. And then a mere 3 points behind are both Chelsea and Liverpool on 48 points. Now, prior to today's games, Manchester United were 1-20 to finish top 5, according to the bookmakers. And obviously, we were given a gift in Wolves last night, beating Liverpool Football Club. But we have obviously not capitalised on it. But let's talk briefly on the team that was put forward today by Michael Carrick. So obviously in goal was Sene Lamans, who again did nothing wrong as far as I could see during the duration of the game. But we had Shaw, Maguire, Yoro and Mazraoui as our back four. Mainoo, Casemiro in our central midfield. Cunha, Bruno and Mbumo on the attacking line, and then Benjamin Sesko leading the line. We were given a gift early doors, and one could argue that it was probably the wrong Newcastle player that got sent off in that first half, because Joe Linton obviously did that sarcastic clap at the referee. something that should, under normal circumstances, receive the second yellow card. And I felt that the fella that did get sent off for the simulation second yellow card, you could argue, literally lost his footing. There was no foul. I think we all agree that. But I think he was probably quite unfortunate to actually get that second yellow. So it was probably a case of the wrong Newcastle player getting the line that first half. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, look, Rebel. I mean, the two. When I look at the Ramsey's bookings, I'm coming from an old school where you get booked for a rough house tackle. He got sent off for diving and a little drag back of his shirt. And that just shows you, that just emphasizes to me everything that's wrong with football today. You know, you used to be, you know, back in the day, football's changed so much. Back in the day, you would clatter a man and sometimes you'd walk away and not even get a booking. But that clattering of a man's gone out, that's a red card now, and it's like a criminal offence. You end up in court for things like that. But pulling a shirt, little tug back, and a little dive, a simulation like that gets you sent off. I just think it's pathetic, to be honest. I wouldn't have wanted him to get sent off. I want to beat 11 men. I don't, you know, by the rules, yes, but I just think the game's getting pathetic because people will be, you know, trying to bend the rules and everything. Get tackling back into the game. Make tackling, you know, legit again, and stop all this foolishness. The thing about the clapping you were talking about there about Joe Linton, sarcastic clapping. So what? It's down to the referee's discretion. If he understands it, the spirit of the game, yeah, you're going to get that all the time. What about all the thousands of people calling you see you next Tuesday and all that kind of, let's go around the stadium. This is what really makes me laugh about football. You go to like a Sunday league game and I'd say something from the sidelines and the referee or a player would start crying about it. But if you want to play pro football, you've got thousands of people telling you about your mama, telling you about your wife and all kinds of things and all kinds of nasty, and you have to take it. Unless you're going to do a Cantona, giving a Kung Fu kick. So I'm just disheartened with everything. I don't want to... Talking about that, just I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm old school. I like flipping tackles, roughness, and I think that's how the game should be played.
Let's talk about the performance. Obviously, we gave away a penalty in that first half, and he stuck it straight down the middle and past Lamans. 1-0 down. Then, right before the first half ended, Bruno put a lovely ball onto Castle's dome and it entered the back of the Newcastle net 1-1. So Manchester United found themselves in position where they were level at half-time with a 10-minute to 11 advantage. However, in that second half, would you agree that the pacing of Manchester United, that the energy levels just didn't seem to be there, and that Newcastle, if anything else, seemed to be more hungry, more determined, and probably fed off the roar of Tyneside, Mr. B?
I'm just gonna say yes, Rebel. I'm so disappointed, Rebel. Honestly, there was no tempo in the first half. You would like to hope that, I know you can't switch a switch on and off, but the tempo in the second half, even when they had the 10 men, it didn't change. It was still slow. They still, I mean, I was saying on the watch along, it looks like they're the ones with 11 players. They were able to switch the ball out wide. They took the chances with their long balls that found the players. They just stretched the pitch. It was a weird game to watch. We weren't in control. We weren't in control of the game at all. We weren't in control of the game at all. We got bossed in the first half up until the player got sent off. They had their chance. We responded. The second half, you would like to think that there would be something, but there was nothing. There was nothing. I understand why he made the change with Casemiro coming off because he just wasn't getting around the pitch. But when we have to bring on Agate, look, the transfer window is what it is. It's gone and gone. So there's no point. We have to talk about what we have in our squad. So I've brought on Agate. I'm not going to say he's bad, but he doesn't fill me with any confidence, and I'm not sure he fills Carrick or the rest of the team with confidence. So I'm not going to say I'm not blaming Carrick. I'm not going to blame Agate for the loss. And nothing. The whole team, to a man. I don't think there was anybody who was maybe over a 6, if that. I don't think there was anybody over a 6. So we got the man sent. They got the man sent off, but we started the game. I thought it was going to be a 20-minute spell where they were going to be that team, but it went on for the whole first half. They continued for the second half. So, yeah, we weren't at the races today, and we got what we deserved, man.
I just want to say a quick hello to one of our first Twitch viewers to actually make comments about the club. Alex, you're very welcome to the Man United agenda. He's talking about Joe Linton bullying us, and after what he saw from Cunha and Mbumo, then he thinks that Xerxes and Ahmed will need to start the next game. Obviously, that's something we can talk about in the next preview show. Cold Assassin is telling us we were simply not good enough today and we paid the price. Andrew's also saying Joe Linton was the best player on the pitch. Stuart Marshall, who attends football games at Old Trafford and sees these players week in, week out on a regular basis, was saying Bruno was okay, but he's fed up with the bloody whinging. It's probably the first time that we saw whingy Bruno back in a long time, to be fair. He has kept a lid on it of late, but there was a bit of a revert to form today. I will grant you that. Let's see who else is here. Through the table, he's saying, hello, friends. I believe that is one of our Arsenal buddies, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. And let's see. Stuart Marshall is also saying, did Sesko play?
You know what?
To be fair about it, I think the quality of the ball in him was terrible.
Thank you. You can only do as good as the supply line, and he never had anything today. Did he miss an opportunity? No. Did he have an opportunity? No. That's not his fault. So yeah, Bruno, he did play today, Stuart. You know what I mean? You need to be singling out other players. Sesko's not the guy to be singling out today.
Danish Zagu. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name. He's saying this has been a trend at United. When we do bad, we deflect from the real issue and hate a certain player for everything we saw in it. He's saying examples: David De Gea, Maguire, and now it is Ugarte. Kieran is saying people shouldn't be down. Yes, we didn't turn up tonight, but we're not going to win every game. 100% absolutely correct on that front. We did say, I think, that the inevitable defeat was going to eventually arrive under Michael Carrick's tenureship. We weren't going to go the rest of the season on a winning streak, but absolutely, you're 100% on that front. Mr. Port is saying, unlucky result. I came back to take one on the chin. I predicted 1-1 with a Casemiro goal, and he also was unlucky enough not to get the turf accounted to pay out at the end of that game. Alex, again from the Twitterverse, saying Sesko maybe got 2 good passes, and even then they were in tight spaces where nothing could be done. So in fairness, I think the chat is pretty much saying that it did not go on the shoulders of our big striker. But let's just have a quick talk about, I'm just going to give you some ratings from livescore.com. And according to them, the joint worst player, actually the worst player on the pitch according to them because of the red card was Ramsey. Then Sesko and Mbomo on our side. And the players that lit it up, Gordon for Newcastle was the best player on the field according to them, followed by Bruno and Trippier. And then there's Cunha, and there's a whole mess of Newcastle players then after that are relatively high up. But when you look at that game, obviously, Michael Carrick now has to go into a losing dressing room for the first time. He's obviously going to be looking to impart a learning message, you'd imagine, and kind of while we point out what didn't go well for us on that pitch. Also, what we can do going forward as to how we can address the issues that came to play today. How important is it now to get things back on track in the next game? And what do you think the atmosphere is going to be like in Carrington in terms of the training ethic coming off a loss now?
Sometimes, Rebel, you just have to accept that, you were turned over. There might be a few arguments saying, look, man, I think it's going to be positive. Like I said in the past few weeks, when you build a winning run, it builds confidence in the team. So there'll be respect for one another. They'd be saying, look, we should have won this. We had an opportunity here, second half, against 10 against 11. We should have done better. Should have applied ourselves a bit more. I think they were just waiting for things to happen rather than forcing things. And when you've got the extra man, you should really try harder to sort of work the ball. And I don't think we did that too well. But it's fair. It's fair enough. I don't think it's going to be a disaster. I don't think it's going to be any sort of stringing up of players or anything like that. They scored a worldie to win the game. It was an absolutely fabulous goal. You could say, Maguire could have gone over there, but he done the right thing by saying, Malacia, I'm going to cover the middle. You go over there, And if he wouldn't have got there, the way things were going, being in a good position. And how do you know that Malacia he's been rusty, coming on, would have covered for Maguire? So it's the right call, I believe, to get Malacia to go out and stand him up. But he didn't stand him up at all. He let him cut inside onto his strong foot. And Malacia didn't even make an effort. That's unlike Malacia. Malacia is a dog. He runs out there, gets in your face and dogs you. But he didn't even make an effort to it's like he's one of these mannequin cones that you have, that you set up in training, step over and push past the player. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do anything. Excuse my grammar. He didn't do anything. So look, if you're going to be critical, that's what I'm going to say. I felt that Malacia could have done a lot more to, it was you were the first man and you stood there like a flipping mannequin and like a training, what do you call them? Training
dummy.
In the wall, that wall. It's like, what's the point? Players do that in training. They do step overs, beat the man, beat the mannequin thing, and slot the ball into the back of there.
Can I put this to you though, Yaba? Obviously, Malacia has not seen the field for quite a long time. He's an unused player for the majority of the time. And is this the price we're paying for cold players coming into games when they haven't been battle-hardened?
Well, you heard me say this. You have to snip it. I said this a couple of weeks ago about the balance. And I said there's a couple of players. I said Agate, I said Malacia and Xerxes are players that, they're senior players. They need to get more game time because they will come on and like that. And that I'm not blaming. Look, these are small details that lose you games. But for me, if it was a great goal. I can't really scrutinize it too much. But I was disappointed because as a defender, you have to get out there and stop the guy doing what he wants to do like that. Just get on him. And he obviously he couldn't get there. But then when he did come to you, you let him just get a few yards off him, just with one little step over, and he was just pushed onto his left foot. And then that was curtains.
Absolutely. There's Jamie saying hello to Mr. B. Mr. Portis is saying he wonders, was Maguire's head in the game because of obviously the announcement that came out from Greece today about him receiving a suspended sentence, which was obviously big news. But look, I suppose the reality of the situation is Manchester United lost the game of football in Newcastle 2-1, and we've tasted defeat for the first time in 2026. Our next game is clearly going to be a top 5 game of significance in that we're playing Aston Villa on Sunday week, the 15th of March at 2:00. So that result is probably more important than tonight's one, even though obviously it is disappointing. We will obviously be previewing that closer to the time, but the rest of the week is looking as follows on the Man United agenda. We will have the aftermath starring Rio tomorrow. He's going to probably be zoning in on Maguire's culpability for that second goal. He's going to be zoning in on our flat performance in midfield. the lack of chances created for Sesko. Obviously, he's going to be talking about what we could have done better in terms of defending when we gave away that penalty. But there's a lot to kind of deep dive in that game. And then Mr. B, who has had the better of the Arsenal fans for quite some time and has had them dancing to his tune on the Friday night show, is probably going to be dealing with a different beastie on Friday. A more cocky Arsenal fan, a more buoyant Arsenal fan, an Arsenal fan that thinks the Premier League now is firmly within their grasp. So be sure to tune in for the late night Friday show with Mr. B, with the Arsenal fans, and of course, poor Derms, who can't get a break no matter what he does. But for tonight, we have been the Man United Agenda. And as always, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, and of course that notification bell, because that is what will tell you when we go live. And our apologies for the AI generated thumbnail. We unfortunately didn't have access to our chief artist tonight, but from us, it's a good night.